Hey everyone, this is Tony, bringing you Rock Interface's video for how to set up your EXOR MicroEdge Basic for the first time. We'll cover unboxing, connection to the Corvina cloud, initial setup of the device in a web browser, and we'll be establishing a VPN connection to a PLC. Timestamps will be in the description. Let's get to it. We're going to start by unboxing this brand new EXOR MicroEdge Basic. Let's slide it open. Take it out of the packaging. Here we've got all the connectors that come with it. We've got the power connector and the serial connector. Serial connector we can just plug right in here. Let's get our power wires on it first. We will put in 24 volts. Tighten down these screw terminals. Let's plug it in. Give it power. Once it boots up, the green light will come on. There it is. Now let's add it to the DIN rail. Hit the connector to snap it into place. And this is very important. It comes with this sticker that has your activation key. You're going to need that for activating it on the Corvina cloud so you can use the VPN service. So we always recommend to immediately pull that off and stick it on the side so you don't forget the activation key. I always put it on this side because this side here has a sticker here you can pull off for the expansion port, which you plug in on that side. So I mean, I always think you'd want to have it on the side you might not have any devices attached to. So okay, so we plug in our Ethernet cable to the ETH0 slot. We hear the beep that tells us our MicroEdge is connected to the internet. Then we'll open up our email. You should get an email from your distributor giving you a link to get onto Corvina. It'll say Corvina Cloud, update your account. So let's open it up and click reset my password. And then click here to proceed. Click back to application. Now we log in. The username will be your email address. The password will be the one you just set up. Now we're on Corvina. So this is our organization, Demo 3. I'm going to connect this MicroEdge to the Demo 3 organization. So I go to Devices, Activate. Now you call it whatever you want. You got to pick a location. Just click over here. The activation code that we got in the box, it's on a sticker. We'll put that in here. Now, we're only doing a VPN connection today. We'll show in a later video how to create a dashboard and collect data and get it up to the Corvina cloud. If you're only using this to get a VPN connection, you'll click Activate VPN Only right here. And it's as easy as that. You'll see at the bottom, it'll check to see the Corvina Cloud app is installed. This is necessary for creating a VPN connection. So now we're going to go to the VPN tab. You'll see the Demo 3 MicroEdge is shown. It's connected to the internet. You can see that right here. But we need to download the Corvina Cloud app. This will allow you to establish a VPN connection. It just runs in the background. You actually never need to open this up, but it connects when you're on Corvina. So we'll click down here in the bottom right to download it. I'll install real quick right here. Now refresh the page and it should detect that you have the Corvina Cloud app. Yep, there we go. It's gray. It says online right there. You got to hit the login button down here and then it should turn green in a second here. Setting up VPN channel. Alright, there we go. Now your MicroEdge is connected to Corvina, and if you click right here to connect, the gateway is established. So the easiest way to get to the setup page where there's a bunch of settings, like we'll set the IP address on the ETH1 port to be compatible with our PLC. We need to do that to establish our VPN connection. So the easiest way to the setup page is through Corvina. it's giving you a virtual IP right here, and you can just put that into your web browser and then do /machine_config. Now hit enter, and it's going to say connection is not private. You go to advanced, proceed to the IP address, and then you put in admin and admin. That is your initial login, and it's going to make you change that login upon first time connection here. We're talking to this MicroEdge that hosts this web browser through Corvina right now. So you could do this with your MicroEdge being, on the other side of the world, as long as it's connected to the internet. So we'll put in a new password. They have all these requirements here. Just to summarize, it needs to be more than 8 characters, lowercase, uppercase, numeric, and a special character. Alright, so it bumps us back out to the same login screen you saw earlier. We'll put in admin for the username, and then the password you just created for the password. This works on every version of Windows. When you first unbox this MicroEdge here, the ETH1 port is always going to have the same IP address, 192.168.0.1. So I'm going to establish a local Ethernet connection directly from my laptop to the ETH1 port. I'm going to set up my port to a compatible subnet, control panel, network and sharing center, change adapter settings, find your Ethernet port here. For us, it's USB XHCI4. Go to properties, IPv4, and then click over to use the following IP address. Change it to 192.168.0. Anything that's not 1, let's call it 89. Click into subnet mask, it'll populate, that's fine. Hit OK. Ping it to make sure we got a good connection here. So put CMD into the search bar and then type in ping space 192.168.0.1. So you can see we're getting 4 replies back. We're getting a good connection here, so we can proceed to the web browser. So this method of creating a network connection to set an IP address through the control panel is the universal method since Windows XP. There's another way to do it for every version of Windows, different from that, but this is the universal way of doing it. So I just show that because I know this will work if you're on XP or greater. Now that we've established our connection, we're gonna go to https://192.168.0.1/machine_config. Now it's gonna look very familiar. You click advanced, proceed to that connection. Now we already created this password, so it's not going to make us create that password again. So we're going to put in our password with admin. And now we're back into system settings. Besides connecting to the web browser through the Corvina cloud, or connecting to the Ethernet 1 port through a static IP address. Let's say you change the static IP address on Ethernet 1 and you can't get on Corvina Cloud. Maybe you don't have internet access or some other reason you're not able to get on there. There's a way you can discover the IP address of the Ethernet 0 port if you have it set to DHCP, which is standard. It's set up for DHCP so it can connect to the internet. Usually you plug the internet into ETH0 and you plug your end device into ETH1. So I still have the ETH0 port on the MicroEdge connected to my network switch. I plugged my Ethernet from my computer into the network switch. And now I'm going to change my Ethernet port of my computer to DHCP. So I go to Network and Sharing Center, go to my Ethernet port. IPv4 setting, set to obtain an IP address automatically. Now I'm going to open this JMobile Studio, which is a programming software made by EXOR, which is used to program HMIs. You can also make virtual HMI screens for the MicroEdge that you could access through a web browser. Now I go to run, manage target, and you can see the IP address pops in right here. This is what the network router has provisioned to the ETH0 port on the MicroEdge. So now if I put this into my web browser, https://this/machine config, go to advanced, proceed, and then put in the IP password that you set up earlier and admin as the username. Now we're back into the system settings. So now we are going to look at the system settings in the web browser. This is broadcast from the MicroEdge Basic, and we're going to set it up so it can talk to our PLC through the VPN on the Corvina cloud. First, let's go to localization. If you're using a Wi-Fi module, which is an optional device that you can plug into the side of the MicroEdge, it wants the country code set up so that you're using whatever wireless bands are authorized for your country. It's not so important if you're not using the Wi-Fi module, but let's set it up anyways. Now the system tab, most interesting thing here would be how much RAM usage you have and your CPU usage and the uptime. So you can install PLC and HMI programs on the MicroEdge, and pretty much everything that EXOR sells as far as HMIs. If you're installing a bunch of stuff onto it, it might be good to know this info to see if you're overloading the system. This tab for logs gives you the ability to set up a persistent log. Tab just lets you set up date and time. Right now it's set to automatically pull it from the internet. This tab, network, this is going to be very important. One of the main tabs you're going to be using. Edit this. So these are the Ethernet ports that are on the MicroEdge right here, ETH0 and ETH1. We usually keep ETH0 set to DHCP so that it can connect to the internet. ETH1 comes out of the box as 192.168.0.1. To connect to our PLC, it's on a 192.168.1 subnet, so we're going to change our IP address on ETH1 to match so that we can connect to our PLC. The tap 0 is the VPN connection. You don't need to do anything with that, but that's what this is referring to here. Now let's look at the security tab. If you want to disable external USB devices and SD cards, this is the way you do that. I generally recommend not disabling these because if you want to do a factory reset, really convenient to do it through USB. Applications. These are optional apps you can install on the devices. In this case, we have a HMI runtime app installed on it. So through the web browser, you can run HMI screens just like you'd be used to seeing on like a HMI display. Under the services tab, there's a lot of stuff here that can get pretty complicated. I want to point out in specific this router, NAT, port forwarding, this needs to be on to establish your VPN connection, so make sure that's turned on. Cloud VPN service, this also needs to be on. If you look into this, it's helpful because it can tell you if it's connected to the Corvina cloud. Generally, you don't really need to touch this, but this is the server that's used to connect to the Corvina cloud. And the activation code comes preloaded on the MicroEdge, but if for whatever reason you needed to change it, this is where you could put in a new one. So on the services tab, there are a whole bunch of complex settings here that you can get really into the weeds in. We're going to show more details on the other items in a future video. Alright, let's look at the management tab now. This is where you can change the firmware version on your MicroEdge Basic. We'll probably have a future video on this because there's a few steps involved here. But you can get different versions of firmware from EXOR and load them on here. And you can see what version you have, so you can tell if you need it to be changed. You can also download and upload your settings for the MicroEdge. So if you have a whole setup that you want to repeat on a bunch of different units, you could update them all very quickly that way. Now we're going to set up Corvina for a VPN connection to this PLC right here. First, we're going to plug the Ethernet cable into the ETH1 port, which we set to that static IP address with the 1 subnet. And we're going to plug this Ethernet cable into our PLC over here. Let's log back in. Now we're going to go to Devices, VPN. We're going to log in the Corvina Cloud app at the bottom. Alright, it's setting up the VPN channel. Alright. Now we're connected to the MicroEdge. Now we're going to go to Endpoints tab. Click the down arrow. Click Create Endpoint right here. Let's add our PLC and type in our IP address. Hit the check button. And so depending on what device you're using, there's options to use a real IP or a virtual one. Basically, it creates a different IP address you can use to connect to the endpoint device. They suggest to use the virtual IP and not the real IP. Depending on the device, I found some work better with one, some work better with the other. And just by trial and error, you can kind of find what works best for you. I know in this case, this PLC likes for you to use a real IP, so I'm going to leave this checked right here. Hit continue. We're going to click back to devices and then hit the down arrow here. We need to log back into the Corvina cloud. Alright, we're in now. And now if we hit connect right here, it will show that we're connected. This green box will show up and it'll give you the real IP address. So let's first, before we go into the software, make sure we can ping it. So there we go, we can see it's pinging right now in the command prompt. And if we go to our PLC software, we're offline right now. It's got the path that just has this IP address. And if we go online, and now you can see we're online, and you can see the lights are, the outputs are moving just like on the front of this display here. And that's everything. If you have any questions or requests for other videos, please leave a comment or visit our website at rockinterface.com.